Greetings, welcome, welcome. It's good to have you here today. We are blessed to be able to participate in this discussion that is very important and pertinent to what's going on in our land today. And so what I'm going to do is, before we go into detail, we do have an agenda, and we want to start it off in prayer. It is important that we pray. Also, we have a focal scripture that we want to discuss, or shall we say, go over really quickly. And so without further ado, let's get started. Bear with me 1 second. All right. Today, this discussion today is Race in America, a father and son panel discussion addressing social injustice and the family and the faith community. It is hosted by Bishop George D. McKinney and my 4 brothers. And so I will go into detail a little bit as we go in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with a word of prayer. Bishop, could you lead us in prayer on this evening?
Yes. In all things we give thanks, O God. You have taught us that in every situation and under every condition that we should give thanks. For the giving of thanks is a recognition that you are in charge, that you are sovereign, that you are great and you are good. We acknowledge that we need you today. We ask for your presence and your anointing to be upon us as we engage in conversation. May our words be seasoned with grace, and may the blessings of God flow into our lives. We pray, dear God, that you would heal our land. Bless your people everywhere and teach us your way and to trust in you. Bless this time we have together. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Bishop. Let's go. We do have a focal scripture, and I'm going to read that quickly. We're going to be reading from 2 Chronicles 7 and 14, and that scripture is, "If my people who are called by my name humble themselves, pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land." God be a blessing to this holy word. All right. All right, so let's go over housekeeping. We are involved in a dialogue, so what we are going to do is going to ask everybody to mute their phones. We are going to try to do this within an hour time frame. But when the Holy Spirit takes over, and when we get involved with fellowship and robust discussion, we sometimes it can go over, but we're going to be cognizant of the time. I also want you all to submit your questions in the chat room, and also if you have some kind of issue with submitting your questions in the chat room, you can also email me. And here's my email address: is gmckinney705@gmail.com. But everybody should be able to do the chat. All right. All right. Okay. Today's topic is the issue of race in America. And this is a father and son discussion. And so I just want to welcome each and every one of you today, because this is a father and son discussion. We want to deal with social injustice and the faith community, because social injustice, as it relates to the U.S. justice system, law enforcement, adjudication, and correction, is quite extensive. And for that sake, and for the sake of time, we have decided today to delve into the issue of law enforcement in particular. And so that being said, this is how it's going to work, folks. Bishop, my brothers, and I will address various topics that are on the agenda. And during this time, if you have any questions or any comments, like I said earlier, just go ahead and type it in the chat. We will, and I promise, we will address any questions listed in the chat room. It is our intent through a dialogue, through this dialogue, to enact grassroots change and robust family conversations. And today we are blessed to have my father, Bishop George D. McKinney. Dr. George D. McKinney is the prelate of the second ecclesiastical jurisdiction in Southern California, in San Diego. He also is a board member of the National Church of God in Christ, Incorporated. He is a wonderful, blessed man of God. We are definitely blessed to have him as a father. He's not only a father to us, he is a father to the community. He's a writer. He's a prophet. He's a visionary, and he's been involved in the civil rights movement. And he is just a wonderful father and a wonderful man of God, and we just thank God for him. He is 80. You don't mind me telling your age, do you, Dad?
No, I'm thankful to be here.
All right. He is 87 years old. He will turn 88 next month, right?
August.
No, in August. In August. He will turn, the Lord willing, he will turn 88 in August. We thank God for him. And I also have my brothers. My brothers, each and every one of them are ordained. They are ordained in the Church of God in Christ. They love the Lord. They're all married, happily married, and fathers. And they been extensively involved in the life of the church. Let me go ahead and introduce them. You see these dapper gentlemen on the right. The first one is my youngest brother, Glenn McKinney. Say hello to the people, Glenn.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here.
All right. The next is my brother, Greg McKinney. He's also a musician, and he's done a number of things. And say something to the people, Greg. I guess he has it on mute. All right. Then my brother George in the middle. That's the eldest brother. He's a pastor in San Diego. His church is Impact Global Church in San Diego. Wonderful man of God. Then my brother Grant. Grant is an elder in the Church of God in Christ. He lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Say hello to, well, hey, George, could you say something?
Yeah, you passed me by.
I'm sorry about that. I thought you were on mute like Greg.
Yeah, hello, everybody. God bless you. We look forward to a great discussion.
Hey, Greg, are you still on mute? Is he on? Let's see. Well, I'll get back to them.
I'm here.
Okay, Greg, say hello to everybody, because we're going to need everybody online, because we need your dialogue.
Hello, everyone. Looking forward to the discussion.
All right. And then Grant, the next, George, you said hello. Okay. Now, Grant, could you say hello to the people?
Hello, everyone.
All right. All right. And I am the last person, and I'm the last, but I'm not the youngest. I'm what they call the knee baby. And so Glenn is the baby. I was the baby until Glenn came around, but that's all right. That's another story. But look, we are going to go ahead and get involved in this discussion. And let me go ahead and go to the agenda. Okay, so as I was saying, law enforcement is just a piece of the puzzle. And so what we want to talk about, and what we'll do is we're going to start with Bishop, and each topic, each bullet, I want, for each and every person to go in depth what their feeling is in regards to it as it relates to law enforcement. So Bishop, if you can give us some insight of what you feel about body cameras and cell phone technology as it relates to monitoring the law enforcement in the community.
God bless you all. I'm thankful for this opportunity. But before I talk about the law enforcement aspect, I would like to share a definition for racism that I've used for many years in my lecturing and teaching around the country. I view racism as prejudice with power. Prejudice with the power to enforce the prejudice upon the one who is the victim. And without the power, one does not have the effect of the destructive nature of prejudice. And so prejudice has been part of the American experience. And in back more than about nearly 100 years ago, a Swedish sociologist and scholar came to the United States and looked at the problem of prejudice, and he called it the American Dilemma. And he wrote a book, and I recommend that book to everyone if it's still in the libraries. The American Dilemma by Gunnar Myrdal. I remember 60 years ago, I was a probation officer and was taking a walk downtown during my lunch.
I used to have Reverend Blake years ago.
Reverend Blake. Oh yeah,
I'm sorry. Hold on one second. I'm going to ask everybody to put your phones on mute.
Yeah, Reverend Blake is over all.
Hold on one second. I'm sorry.
Or out of a different district or something.
Run the church after that either.
I can't find the person. Hold on. I'm sorry, Bishop. Okay, I think they muted it. I'm sorry about that.
I was just relating that about nearly 60 years ago when I was as a probation officer here in San Diego and was taking my lunch break, taking a stroll downtown, when the police pulled up and stopped me and said there had been a robbery of a bank, and I looked like the culprit because, and that being that I was a Black person, and there was a general suspicion that I had robbed the bank. But fortunately, I was able to identify myself and was spared the brutality that many other Blacks have experienced. The law enforcement arm of the government has been remiss in maintaining the meaning of the title that they wear, that they have designed and committed to protect and to preserve, to promote peace. Peace officers, they're called. And thanks be to God that the body camera and cell phone technology is now being used to lay bare the raw underbelly of the atrocities and brutality and injustices that have been fostered by some law enforcement officers because they had bought into the lie of racism, that they had power and authority to impose their prejudice in the fulfillment of their job and their responsibility. We don't have any idea of how many murders and acts of mayhem have been committed in the name of the law, because until the cell phone and the body cameras were introduced, there was no witness to the injustice. And if you had to make a choice as to who was telling the truth, the victim or the police officer, 95% of the time the police officer would be believed and the victim would be denied. It is very important that during the past few months, the number of cases that have been brought to light because someone at the scene of the police brutality took pictures of it. And then you had the choice of presenting that information to the powers that be. And they were persuaded they reluctantly that there has been a reason for the cry for the pursuit of justice and humanity. The wisdom of the ages reveal that power corrupts, and the absolute power corrupts absolutely. And there has been invested in the position of peace officer and law enforcement to be judge and executioner. There are those who are not capable of maintaining the decency because their philosophy, their attitude, their wisdom, their will is not for justice. Too many who have worn the badge and carried the gun have not been interested really in justice, but there has been the willingness to promote lies and to deny that there have been injustice at all. So it's going to be a new day now. Thank God for the cell phone technology. Thank God for body cameras. For it is difficult to deny what your eyes behold. When the world saw what happened to George Floyd, when the world saw what happened in Minneapolis, there was no denial of the brutality and the inhumanity. And there was something that was triggered around the nation and around the world, so that there's been an outpouring of grief, moving toward a sense of identifying this evil. And so we have demonstrations in all of the major cities of America, and demonstrations in Australia and the United Kingdom and Paris and London and Japan and China and New Zealand, because there is something concerned. There are some concerns now that when anybody experiences injustice and brutality and lynchings, it affects everyone, because no man is an island unto himself. Each person is a part of the continent, the main. We are thankful that these techniques have been brought forward in our day. And we must also remember that there have been thousands of other atrocities committed. And we hope that this message will be received, that no longer will we stand for, no longer will we accommodate the wickedness of destroying human life. There has to be a shift in the attitude, a change in the values. There has to be a renewal of understanding regarding the sacredness of life and the fact that all people want freedom. Everybody wants to be protected. Everybody wants to be recognized and acknowledged. No one wants to be dehumanized. No one wants to be discounted. And so the technology of today brings to us the possibility of shedding light. And those who have been hiding in the darkness of destructive behavior will no longer be able to hide. They must come out of the corner. You can't hide, for the light has come. And light reveals darkness and dirt and wickedness. And that light is shining brightly. I pray that what is begun as a new understanding of the presence of God and the availability of techniques and technology to reveal wickedness will have an opinion, will have an effect upon the thinking of people and the values But the important thing is there is need for repentance. There is need for repentance and a turning from evil and darkness and inhumanity and the destructive behavior that disowns the dignity of man and his relatedness to God. Prejudice and racism denies the justice and the righteousness of God. Prejudice and racism thingifies man. It determines that a man's worth and value is determined by his skin color, hair texture. Please note that every man is a member of the family of mankind, and thus a member of the family of God. And our dignity and worth is derived from our relatedness to God. God made all mankind to dwell on the face of the earth from one blood. And it is important that we recognize this and no longer subscribe to the lie that there is some life more valuable than other life.
All right, Bishop, thank you so much. We appreciate your feedback in regards to that. Now, keep in mind, we have all these topics. We want to make sure that we hit each and every one, and I got these four brothers there chomping at the bit to talk about what's going on. So thank you so much, Bishop. George, you're on deck. What's your feeling on body cameras and cell phone technology as it relates to law enforcement?
Okay. I think the body cam attempt to register events has been a failure. And one of the reasons that the body camera has been a failure is because it's been reported that police will turn it off. And then once the footage goes to the police station, that footage can be edited, and which it will be edited. There's no question about that, to prevent public outcry. Right now, hopping over to cell phones, the cell phone is our best weapon right now. It's our best defense. I won't say weapon, but I'll say it's our best defense against police brutality. So it would behoove us to really use our cell phones every time we get stopped, until they get some type of process where they get a handle on police training and police behavior.
Thanks so much, George. Next, Grant. Grant. You're on mute. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I don't see your picture, but I do hear you.
I think cops all need to wear body cams, and they need to have a punishment for those that turn their body cams off.
Okay. So you're saying that they should all wear body cams, and they should be able to, they shouldn't have any way in which they can turn them off? Is that what you're saying?
I think that while they are on duty, they should have the cam on.
Okay.
It should be punishment if it's off.
Right.
Okay. So it'd be go ahead.
Right now, if the body cam is turned off and there's a terrible incident, there's no punishment for them having it off. Well, we just turned it off by accident. They're all failed. The camera failed. There'll be some excuse, but there needs to be punishment for the cameras being off.
All right. Okay. That makes so much sense. And so what's happening is there should be some type of punishment for the cop that tries to alter or hide or find a way in which they can block the scene of the crime or the apprehension of, say, a person. Okay, thank you for your feedback, Grant. Next, Greg. My brother Greg, where are you?
You can't hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm looking for you. Okay, Greg, I see you.
Okay. I think the body cam, I think what needs to happen is that the information from the body cams should be uploaded to the cloud or to another source, so it's would be able to be reviewed by an independent party to determine whether anything wrong has gone or not. You could take the information from the body cams and don't just leave it with the police department, but there should be an independent counsel to review all police footage so they can determine independently what happened.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Good input. I have a issue in regards to the cell phone, and I'm wrestling with the fact that you know, when I see, you know, I know it's imperative that we see what's going on in regards, we have to see the ugly truth of the violence and brutality that's in the street. But it seems like a snuff film when you're seeing somebody's life. One minute there's a life, and then the next minute the life is gone, and it really aggravates me to see that, and to see it over and over and over again. And but you know, the thing is, and like I said, I'm wrestling with it because I know it's important to see it, to see the brutal truth of what's being viewed. Kind of reminds me of you know, Emmett Till back in the '60s when Emmett Till was buried. Well, when he was during his funeral, they made sure that his casket was left open, and so that everybody can see the inhumanity, the inhumane way he was treated and how he was brutally murdered, a young teenager, and wrongly accused of something and murdered. And so it's putting a mirror in front of a serious injustice. But I just kind of wrestle with that, just how gruesome our society has become. So I think we need this technology, but it's hard to look at it and bear witness to what's going on in the streets. Glenn?
Yes, I think that the body camera and cell phone technology has really leveled the playing field, but the arrogance of racism is so strong that we still are not seen. It seems as if we're still not seen as human beings, because people do, or there's law enforcement that do what they want to do even though the camera is rolling, and even though they know that they'll be held accountable. There is such an arrogance that, you know, and even some information that you sent us earlier talked about police being having immunity.
Hello, Glenn? I think he's got a bad connection. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Life being snuffed away, you know, and it's become, like you said, a snuff film, you know. So is this, you know, although I know that this is really helping because we have evidences now, but it doesn't seem like, you know, it's still going on. It seemed like it would, knowing this, it would stop in its tracks because people are afraid of being indicted or afraid. But the thing is, even with cameras and cell phones, we have to start looking at each other. Law enforcement, I know they do a dangerous job. I know that. But you still have to look at the people you serve as human beings. You know, whether they're caught in a crime or not, whether they're doing something wrong or not, they are still human. And we cannot take that human right away from someone, especially if we have not given them due.
You missed them, Glenn again.
Yeah, I think his internet.
us in a light where we're looked at as human. But I still think that's lacking right now.
Thanks, Glenn. Look, Glenn, we kind of missed some of what you were saying. It seems like your connection is was going in and out. So just,
oh, really?
Yeah, make sure your connection is good. But thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so thank you so much. Dad, you're up. Now, it looks like we got to kind of move expeditiously through this. So if we can kind of keep it down to at least two minutes. All right. Dad,
Okay.
Dad, and thank you, Glenn. Bishop, second is the removal of brutal apprehension and restraint techniques. What's your take on that, Bishop?
I think that is critical that the removal of those brutal restraint techniques must be done now. And I don't think we need to take a lot of time to do it. We noticed that a number of cities have already taken action. And it is important that every police department take action to ban the chokehold and other brutal restraint techniques. They must be changed now.
Thank you so much. George, what's your take on apprehension and restraint techniques?
First of all, I would agree with Dad's assessment, but in addition, we need to hold other officers at the scene responsible. So if one officer is going haywire with a suspect, and he's just, and I've seen this in so many different videos where they go into this zone and they lose their mind, and then you have other officers that are around who just observe and just let it continue. I think that when you're talking about brutality, all the officers that are there need to be responsible. In addition, I think that officers also should be rewarded for keeping the peace, for coming into a difficult situation and come out peacefully. There should be a reward for records of where there's not a bunch of complaints. They don't have 19 complaints and all that stuff. And then if there are, that's another situation. But brutality should be checked by all officers. They should all be responsible.
Grant, your take, sir.
I think that force should be very minimal and should not be deadly unless it's absolutely necessary.
All right, thank you so much. So unless it's, you said absolutely necessary, correct?
Yes.
All right. Greg, your take.
Well, you can see that they already know how to arrest without incident, because you see when the young man Dylan, who shot up the church, when he was arrested, they took him peaceably and took him to get his sandwich on his way into the police station. So the idea that they need to be retrained, I think, is not the issue, other than the training of mindset that we are humans. They got to treat us like humans. You can't just be ultra aggressive with us and not expect at some point some kind of retaliation.
Very good, very good. When I looked at the George Floyd video, and I saw the fact that the police officer's knee was on the neck, I don't know if you really looked at that video and looked at the eyes of the police officer. It was almost like he was in a trance. To me, it was like almost some type of possession. And I really, and it kind of probably goes into one of the other topics. But I truly believe when it comes to restraint, the thing is, I think that we have to analyze the mental, capacity of some of these police officers. Where is their head? What are they thinking about? What's going on, at home? Or what's going on, So I truly believe that some of this is not only racism, but I think it also can be issues of not only racism, but issues of family issues. It could be another thing. So they take this issue, take these crises in their life, and they take it to work. And I'm sure a lot of police officers take a lot of stuff from work home. So I truly believe it should be imperative that the selection of police officers, and this is something we're going to review, I think, in one of the topics, that must be truly assessed, so that, you know, those who are monitoring the streets or who are working the streets, I mean, they are put in a place in which they are not to wreak havoc, not to let their emotions go wild. And so I think we definitely need to find ways and tactics that we can abate these brutal techniques that have been used. Glenn, what do you have to say about what's going on?
Well, I think that it just seems like that the brutal apprehension and restraint techniques, just as it's been presented to us, it looks like it's like that's the only way that we, you know, it's just you say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, we're kind of losing Glenn again.
I know, Glenn.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
If I'm confronting you, Gordy, or you, George, or any of my brothers, I'm not going to I'm going to talk to you because there's a relationship, there's a connection. So that is really what's missing. And I think once we build that relationship, we don't see people as just as game hunting, or, you know, I got another one, I bagged another one, you know. And sometimes you even see it where they're smiling, and, you know, after they got somebody, they're smiling, and, you know, it's just disheartening. So it has to be a change, because it may have worked, you know, but it for you and your perspective and their perspective of law enforcement, but it's definitely not working for us. So, you know,
Gord?
Okay, Glenn, I'm sorry, Glenn, you're going in and out. Can you hear us, Glenn?
I hear you. I just have a bad connection here. I'm sorry.
Okay, so
let me try to change.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Thanks so much. All right, Bishop, the next thing we're going to talk about is extensive background checks for police recruits. What's your take on how they select the cadets in regards to the police?
Obviously, there's need for a strict program for checking on the officers who are transferring from other jurisdictions. It has been the case in a number of instances where police officers have gone rogue with one department and laid off and go right to another adjoining police department, another municipality, and is hired without any restrictions, whatever. I think there has to be a strict enforcement of close scrutiny on the history and performance of any police officer who served with any other department. And I think that the training and the discipline of police officers should be such that officers know that when they have violated the law and violated the dignity and trampled upon the rights of other citizens, that there will be consequences. I think a lot of the problem that we have now is because many officers have come to the conclusion that there's no consequence for my misbehavior. And if there's no consequence for my misbehavior, why should I have to change? After all, I have the badge. So I think that it's critical for closer scrutiny to be given to the officers who are transferring, who work in one jurisdiction and move to another. And for those who are fresh recruits, they should be examined spiritually, psychologically, socially, and emotionally. They should be given thorough examination.
Thank you so much, Bishop. Very good. George, what's your take?
Well, one of the challenges is that we now discover that there is a contingent of people who are white supremacists and other people from fringe organizations that are matriculating onto the police force, and that has to stop. As a matter of fact, I just read an article somewhere where they found there was some type of application for an extremist organization found on a police car or somewhere. But I'm just saying that we have to really perform those checks, and they have to be ongoing checks. And there should be some type of a community panel or something that where they have say-so in terms of the police who are allowed to survey or to police a certain district. For example, if it's a 4th district, then there should be some type of panel from that 4th district that kind of can review the police officers' backgrounds to make sure that they will go along with what the community feels is safe for their residents.
Thank you so much. Grant, your take.
I think that the police department needs to screen very carefully. Also, there needs to be lawsuits. There's a young man in LA named Tariq Nasheed. He is encouraging us black folks to bring lawsuits and I forgot what you call it, but we need to bring lawsuits, and also there needs to be a regular psychological evaluation, not just one time. There are white supremacists in the police force. We know that there needs to be investigations, regular investigations, to root out the white supremacists.
So basically, continue investigations to root out any white supremacist sympathizer or any groups that does not adhere to the ways in which that particular precinct should handle themselves in regards to that community. And so I agree with that, Grant. Thank you so much. Greg, what's your take?
Obviously, I think there needs to be a closer look at the applicants as they come on board to the police department. But I think a lot of it is also that the police department needs to they need to be paid more so they can hold their applicants to a higher standard. There needs to be a better pay structure for police, because we're not getting applicants who are qualified to actually do the job that they're asked to do. You know, if you can pass the physical, you're pretty much in. But there's more to it than the physical aspects of policing. There needs to be a constant sharpening of your tool that as it relates to public relations, as it relates to community service. You need to always be sharpening your tool, making yourself better as a police officer. And I think right now, one of the problems is the pay grade that police officers get is not nearly enough to really attract the kind of people we need to fill those kind of roles.
All right. Thank you so much. I was talking to my wife, and she gave me a statistic she explained to me that it takes longer to get your beauty license to become to work in a salon than it is to become a cop. So you can actually go to beauty school, and it takes way longer to get your license to do hair than it is to go through the police academy. And so I truly like, Greg, I agree with you, and that's on the next bullet, but I agree that it should be a little bit harder to get to become a police officer. And I think emotional evaluation should be enhanced, because we need to know exactly who is coming on, and if they have any prior mental. I'm sure they do the screenings, but I think it should be a little bit more intense in regards to getting them in and going through the rigor of the police academy. Glenn, what do you have to say?
Well, I think that I do agree with Greg, and as far as paying more and giving more incentive, because the bottom line is the job is difficult. It is difficult to police, and sometimes I think there is, because there's such a need, and they need to fill spots. I think we've come to a place where people have passed through the cracks that didn't have that weren't qualified emotionally to serve, as a police officer. So we put them in there because we need bodies.
All right, I'm going to keep it moving, Glenn, because last thing you said, they need bodies. That's you froze up again on us.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Go. I don't want to stop this. I'm having a bad connection day.
Okay.
I don't know why.
All right.
Go ahead.
So let's do this. I'm going to give you 2 points that you can address. The next two, choose which one that is most near and dear to you, so we can kind of keep this moving. Okay, so we're looking at the next two is Community Review Board for current police officer personnel and enhanced community policing. So we have community review boards for current police officer personnel. So that means that if there should be some type of checks and balances within the community when bad behavior takes place, in which the community is involved, and so that the community will be responsible for bad actors when it comes to policing issues. And I want your take. And then also, let's see, enhanced community policing. What if you have either or if you want to address both of them at this time? Dad, you have the floor.
I would like to mention that the reference to appropriate pay for police officers is a proper reference. I think we need, as a society, need to look at how we value the work of all of our public servants. Teachers, social workers, police officers should be paid decent salaries so that they can have the kind of economic security that frees them up to do the job that they must do. I think that in San Diego, there has been some positive things happen. Remember, in the early 60s, we had a number of cases of police brutality and murders of unarmed private citizens. And there was some changes made because the community rose up and demanded changes. I think that to have community review board that is empowered to take action and that their decisions have effect, this is a big step in changing the attitude. Bear in mind that officers who are prejudiced and that racism has permeated every institution and every organization in our society. And it is important that requires a change of heart. But until the heart is changed, there has to be a change in the consequences so that people will understand. I think King mentioned that laws cannot change a man's heart. but laws can keep him from lynching me. And that is worth considering. So yes, we need to have community review boards that are empowered to make decisions that backed up by the Board of Supervisors and the courts. We have to have responsibility and accountability. Otherwise, there is the tendency to go rogue and to violate the law and the dignity of the persons who are citizens.
Thank you, Bishop. George, I don't see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
I just wanted to focus on just one of those topics in the interest of time. I would like to address enhanced community policing. And I think what we all need to do is be aware of our communities and have a reporting system. I think it shouldn't just, we should report individually, but also we should have some type of a form that's filled out and turned into a community board so that the community is aware of any existing problems. So that we begin to attract not only what's going on in our neighborhoods, but how the police are dealing with it to be circulated. So everybody knows that there's a system of accountability that's set up with the community and things are documented and everything is being watched. I just that's my take.
Thank you so much, George. Brother Grant.
I have no comment.
All right, okay. Brother Greg.
I kind of, Brother George kind of said the things that I was thinking already, so I don't want to, I'll piggyback on what he had to say and just kind of co-sign, and we can keep it moving.
Okay, let me do this. Let me just kind of break away real quick. I'm not showing anything in the chat rooms. Has anybody chatted anything? I'm trying
I see a lot of questions in the chat rooms.
Okay, let me see. Let me try to get there, and let me break it up. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. Hold on. Let me stop here. All right, there we go. Okay. Oh my goodness. Let's go. Please forgive me. All right. Elaine says, I understand that we have body cameras and the cell phones, but what do we tell our young Black youth to do when approached by police, as none of the technology used saved the life of the Black men? George, do you want to address that one?
Well, that's a very good one. That's because we need to have policies where, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We need to have policies where the police who are on the scene, who are surrounding it, for example, in the case of George Floyd, those police officers need to be held accountable immediately. And those are the things that will make a difference. We have to have a system in place where that happens. And in terms of body cams, that information needs to be, as a policy, either turned over to some type of a community agency, which it can be distributed, but everything needs to be on the up and up. Things need to be known in the community so that we don't have this kind of problem. I know there'd probably be a resistance to that, but that's the only way, is that they need to know that if we violate somebody's rights, everybody's gonna know about it real time. And my officer buddies who are around me are responsible for keeping this situation in check.
Thank you so much, George. Another question. This question was asked by Brother Deacon Dennis Blunt. How about a third party in which all video is downloaded to a third party company in raw version? The police department should not have the opportunity to edit, otherwise what is the purpose of having body cams? Bishop, did you want to address that?
I think the point is good. It's clear that there should be a third party, and I agree with the position.
This is some really good questions from everybody. Brother Ethan says, I have to, said he had, I guess he's back. Okay. All right. Sister Sonia said, my concern is that witnesses on the street are filming, but no one is filming independently and is making an effort to intervene to help the person. You know, I want to address that. One of the problems I have, and like I said, I know it's necessary to see what's going on, but also there's an element to the fact that you can gain from your video. You know, if you get a number of people to click in and view your video, you can actually generate wealth through YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. And so what happens is, you know, you have this situation where you're videotaping, but yet you're like, wait a minute, I'm getting views, I'm going viral. And so, you know, we have a situation, we have a culture where everybody wants to go viral because there's a way in which you can profit off of the demise of someone. And so that's one thing that I've been wrestling with. Anybody else want to say anything about that? All right. All right, I do see, let's see, Brother Nathan says the murderous police officer has had numerous brutality complaints against him. So despite the training, they had received the complaints that had been submitted against him. The point of failure appears to be whoever was in charge of acting on such complaints. Whoever it was that was responsible to act on these complaints at the time that they had been submitted needs to be called on the carpet for ignoring the system that was in place to weed out officers that have no business being on the force. Very good, very good.
Weed out the officers, but
yeah,
to get rid of.
Go ahead.
No, that's what I, you know, there were things in place and they were not followed. And this is the kind of things that results when you don't follow the procedures. And so whoever should have been the one following those procedures is a part of this problem and needs to be held accountable for it.
Very good, very good. I totally agree. Anybody else on that?
I don't think we would even be having to have this meeting because George Floyd would still be alive if that person, what is it, 6, 8, 10 years ago, had done their job and had weeded that out, and that would have set an example that others are like, oh, I better watch it because if I get brutality complaints against me, they're actually going to take these seriously for a change instead of just blowing them off.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much. Good comment. Carolyn Byers says, when I was a child, I recall policemen were considered peace officers who served to protect us. What happened to that concept? Amen, Bishop.
Amen.
Bishop, what happened? What made the change? Can you give us any insight on that?
Well, the cancer of racism has just been growing and unabated. The problem of the classifying of Black people as second class or subhuman, that is still the case with many people who hold on to racism, that we are less than human. And therefore, it doesn't matter about treating us like animals or subhuman. That cancer is still growing. And the reason we have the problem as deep as it is that it has not been rooted out. It's only recently that the leadership in the major churches have admitted that racism is sin. They've been accepting of the concept of racism, prejudice with power to enforce their prejudices on those who are the victims. So yes, the point is well taken. it's worse now because it has continued to grow, and its tentacles have reached into every facet of American life.
Amen. Amen. And let's see. Sister Sonia said yes, exactly, Gordon. But the guide taping is not helping the victim. It is evil. Yeah. Let's take a quick look. If you have any other comments, we'll come back and revisit that. But let me do this. I wanted to share something with you all, and the next steps. Okay. So one of the things in regards to addressing this issue, we have to look at police unions. And why I bring up police unions, do you remember when the police officers, the ones that were responsible for the brutally murdering George Floyd on Memorial Day? Right after that happened, I remember receiving word that the police officers were sent home. Not only were sent home, but they were on paid leave. And there are times where cops do egregious things and they get sent home on paid leave. So they're continue to take checks and during this time. And the reason being is that they're not let go because of these police unions. Now, granted, police unions are important, but then, sometimes when police officers are involved in egregious activity, these unions can't cover these police officers. What are your take on it? Anybody have any take on it? And we'll do a hot round where you can just go ahead and talk if you'd like. Anybody? Oh, hold on, Glenn. You're on mute. Unmute yourself, Glenn.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I know we have a brother, Bo Gaffney, who is LAPD, and he's on this call with us. And I don't know, he may have some important insight from his perspective. Bo's a good brother. He's a Christian brother, loves the Lord. And I know he has a lot of experience with community and things, and I've talked to him several times about these about the state of America that we're in and how responsible the police are for us being here. But maybe he might have something to say that would help from law enforcement side, from that perspective. I think it's important that we hear somebody with an unbiased opinion from that side.
Wonderful, wonderful. Where is he? I'm trying to find. Can you speak up?
Brother Bo, you there?
I'd also like to add he has a fantastic beard.
That's the COVID beard, because they only want to cut the top of your hair, but I'm good there.
You're going to say you were clean shaven before quarantine, right?
No.
Brother Bo, you have the floor, and thank you for the hard work that you do.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think one of the most recent questions was about people not understanding that when an officer gets in trouble, or in this case commits a crime, why they're not automatically terminated on the spot and don't receive any pay, everything else. That's because of civil service regulations and policies that, it's kind of like a due process for employees that they have to go through, because if they don't, and even I think in the case of some of the cities around the country that have been very, very quick to terminate officers, watch the news, because there's going to be wrongful termination because they didn't follow those procedures. And so the community members are going to have to incur that lawsuit as part of, their own administration or their own city not following their own guidelines to terminate an employee. So they do need to remove them. Normally they're placed on some kind of administrative leave until They determine the severity of the complaint, and or if the district or city attorney files charges, and then they can move to remove that person. But there is a procedure, at least, you know, in California, from the different agencies that I've been around. I don't know about across the nation, but that's why sometimes it doesn't seem like that's moving as quick, but it is actually behind the scenes. So be patient. I think a lot of the chiefs that have spoken out about that, they're getting the wheels moving to remove the wrong people. So just be patient, because those things are moving. Any other questions I can probably help out with a little bit?
I have one. What about qualified immunity? Qualified immunity for police officers. Are you familiar with that?
Not as far as, you know, I know that there are certain immunities that are granted in the course of our duties, meaning that if we have to use deadly force in a situation, and even during traffic pursuits, as long as, you know, the lights and sirens and there's a lawful reason for you to be engaged in that pursuit, there's certain things that officers are immune from as far as like civil liability purposes of being sued. I'm not sure exactly what it is across the board. I don't think that really anyone in any profession should have, you know, immunity to just do whatever they want and say, well, that was it, and move on. I think it needs to be looked at a little bit closer than that. And especially, and I, like I said, it's not only in law enforcement, it's in a lot of different professions, whether it's medical or other first responders, fire department, everything else. If you have any type of contact with the public, and that could result in a death or even a wrongful death lawsuit, you have to really look at that from a legal standpoint of whether, you know, their training, their education, and their performance, and whether or not that they should be immune from that in the course of their duties, or was there malice, you know. So.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Brother Nathan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had a question for Bo. Did you hear what my statement was about the brutality complaints against that particular officer, and how that apparently wasn't followed up on? I was wondering if you had any comments about that process.
I took a look in the chat room about that. Unfortunately, as a supervisor, I know that there are officers that and other agencies that do commit misconduct. Most of the time it's administrative in nature. It's not criminal in nature, but there are officers in different departments that have a pattern, and at least in Los Angeles, they're pretty good at monitoring or even creating kind of like an alert package of people that they feel that there's a pattern of conduct that is concerning to the department and that needs to be monitored. With that, different departments, I don't know, with these personnel complaints or internal affairs complaints, what they were in nature and why they were not investigated or adjudicated. Maybe they were, and they felt that those complaints were administrative and not criminal. If they were all criminal and he continued to do this, my opinion is it goes back to leadership and proper oversight of supervision. I mean, you could train young recruits and you can have them out in the field, and as a sergeant, you know, you hope that they do the right thing, but the reason why you're there is to provide oversight. And in all these different cases, I haven't seen any supervisors comment why they weren't there. And you have to have the right leadership for these police departments and the proper oversight out there with them each and every day. That's what you're doing. And when you don't have that, then you open up the community to, you know, misconduct and other situations that could possibly have been prevented.
Thank you so much, Brother Bo. Any other questions? I saw something in the chat. Let's see, Sister Silvania, did you want to go ahead and, it looks like you had a question. Do you want me to go ahead and read it? I'll go ahead and read it. we need to hold. Go ahead. I think I hear you coming in. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, were you referring to me?
Yes, I see it.
Oh, I apologize. Yes. So I had put on there, because someone had made a comment earlier about AG Barr, and I think it goes beyond that from the perspective that, whilst the leadership does have to start from the top, this goes beyond, because this didn't start with Mr. Floyd or Mr. AG Barr and his opinions. As Bishop said, this has gone on for decades. And I think part of the issue is it's easy to deflect and say, well, the person at the top is responsible, but this is happening at our local levels. And from my observation of having been here for 25 years, what bothers me is on a state and local level, they're the policy makers that implement what's going on within their communities, and that's not being addressed. And people are literally getting away with murder and vicious violence, like this egregious man who, to my understanding, Mr. Floyd wasn't necessarily a stellar character, but that being said, he also didn't deserve to be murdered. So we do have to address how we are handling any crime that is out there in a civil manner. And I do also believe that people are deliberately put in these, whether it's the police stations, whether it's our civil service departments, whether it's our state level areas, where whether they're white supremacists or Antifa or all these people who have their own hidden agendas and are deliberately putting people in place to stir the pot. So when there are peaceful demonstrations or people who are trying to do the right thing, it actually then gets it turns into an explosive situation. And I really believe we need to hold our local officials accountable, from city, from the mayoral department to the city department to the state department. And that's where the questions, I think, need to be addressed, and the policies that because they're local policies that are implemented. And I think, as Mr. Bowe had said, one of the questions that I was going to ask him to clarify was, I was led to believe that these three gentlemen, police officers who were in that situation, my understanding was that they were apparently the rookies, and the police officer that murdered Mr. Floyd was the lead, like their supervisor, and they did not have the liberty to actually question his actions because they were merely rookies. And if that's the case, then that needs to be addressed, because just because you're a rookie and are new, that doesn't mean you don't have a responsibility, nor should your hands be tied to not question the actions of your supervisor. So I don't know if that was true, that they were rookies and they weren't allowed to question his tactics. But to stand by there and egregiously watch this man be murdered, that also has to change if that is happening in the police department.
That is very good analysis of the situation. Yeah, how many rookies were there? There
was 4 people. There was 3 rookies and the gentleman who, well, I don't know whether I'm calling him a gentleman, but the police officer that murdered Mr. Floyd. But they were also, in my eyes, part and parcel of the problem, because they didn't stop him from continuing doing what he's doing, but I was led to believe that they didn't have the authority to question his tactics either. So I don't know how true that is or not, and I thought Bowe might be able to expand on that.
Yeah, from what I understand is that 2 of them were rookies. I don't know about the other one. And then obviously Officer Chauvin was 18, or I think they said 18 or 19 year veteran of the force, but he was not a training officer. And I can't explain for city of Minneapolis, but at least in Los Angeles, most of the departments that I've seen, brand new rookies, which they were only like the 3rd or 4th shift in, they're assigned to a training officer. And that training officer evaluates them their whole shift and provides them, leadership that they need in the absence of a supervisor. It seems like in this case that one of them might have been assigned to a Chauvin's partner, and I don't know who the other one was assigned to, but they didn't serve in the capacity of a training officer certified by the department to train young rookies, in my opinion. And as far as the question about them kind of deferring to his judgment, I would say that has more to do with, it's not policies and procedures, because I mean, most departments tell you it doesn't matter if you have an hour on or 30 years on, you're responsible for your actions out in the field. So you better speak up and do something about it. But in this, I think it would address the culture of the police department, especially in Minneapolis, where, how they treat young officers, and is there any type of hazing or discrimination, things like that, where they feel like they can't say anything because somebody has 19 years on and they don't, even when they know that what he's doing is murder. And that doesn't make any sense.
That's why I believe it's hugely important that we address this at a local level and demand the proper action from the people that we have supposedly voted into our local jurisdictions to address this in a proper manner, because it's easy for them to pass the buck up the line, and at the local level it's where all this is happening. So I believe a lot of this stuff that's being discussed is awesome, because we really do need to come together as a community and maybe form some panels where we can take it to our civil leaders, whether it's the mayor or even Governor Newsom, who I believe is as culpable as anybody in how egregiously our law enforcement is conducted in California. And, I know we need to address the grievances that happen within our police departments, but on the one hand, we're talking about increasing the income of our civil service officers that attempt to protect us. On the other hand, we're saying defund them and get rid of them. Well, that's a bit of a contradiction. We've got to come to a center ground where, yes, they need to be better enumerated, because it's dangerous, and there are really dangerous people out there that do need to be apprehended, but in a civil manner. And then address the other grievances that we had of the rogue people whose character does need to be addressed, and we do need to have better background checks. Who are they? Who are their affiliations? What organizations are they affiliated with?
Let me say something real quick as far as defunding. I think that it may be a misnomer with defunding. I think the word defund, we have to look at it in a different way, in that defunding means that we understand the police have a lot to do. They have a lot on their plate. And I think defunding means putting funds towards other people that can take some of the weight off their plate, like social services. The police officers aren't trained to be social workers, but there's a lot of social workers that need to be on the line, like the police, that can mitigate some of those situations by just the knowledge and the experience they have in social work to bring peace and to bring organization in that moment of chaos in a house or something. Now, and a lot of times police look at it's like a one size fits all kind of thing, because they have so much that they're dealing with. But if we defund and put monies towards other peace officers or agencies that can work alongside with police officers, helping them do their job, taking some of the things off their plate so that other people can get involved and the police officer doesn't have to do all these things that he's expected to do. So I think that's when they talk about defund, that's what I got out of it when I was listening and hearing some of the opinions of defunding the police department. I don't think that we should abandon the police. We need the police department. We need them. But I think the police department clearly needs help from other agencies that can, there was a situation a year ago, this African immigrant who was at home, who had clearly had some mental issues, and he ended up dead in El Cajon. police shot him. But that could have been a situation where, you know, a social worker could have come out and been able to de-escalate the situation, you know, instead of a person who doesn't have the training in social work to do those kind of things. So I think we just need to bring more people in their expertise, in their fields of expertise, to help in the management and to administering peace in our communities.
I see. Yeah, I think I misunderstood what was meant by defunding, because I'm thinking if we don't have police precincts in our area where people feel that they can go to, and we do need those. Remember when we started Crime Watch many years ago? So I do believe there needs to be more community action, and I do believe people do need to be more empowered without taking the law into their own hands, because when you take the law into your own hands, then you get the other ridiculous situation where you have unstable citizens going on and mercilessly, you know, just shooting people in the back like happened in the other situation. So there's got to be a really good balance as to how we accomplish that.
Brother Bo, I have a question for you. I live walking distance from my church. So basically my church is a community church. It's almost like it's my parsonage.
Sure.
And I'm, you know, when there's something goes down, people know who I am. I know the community, we engage. What do you think about making it mandatory for police officers to live in the community in which they patrol? Does that work, or what's your experience with that?
In my experience, I mean, my experience in Los Angeles, unfortunately, a lot of times people couldn't afford to live in Los Angeles. That's why they lived in the suburbs outside. And this city and the local government didn't have any type of incentives like I think they do in San Diego for what they used to call an officer next door program. I think it's very beneficial to have officers that live in the community in which, not necessarily patrol, but live in the city. What I've seen in my time as an officer and as a detective sergeant throughout my time is that it comes down to a partnership with the community, meaning that when you're actually invested in that community, you treat that community as your home. You're not treating it as a place that you work and you work 10, 12 hours, you know, do whatever you need to do, calls for service, arrest if they're warranted, and then go home. You treat that community as your home. And that's what all the officers should be doing in all the cities across the nation. And in addition, in Los Angeles, at least what we have is what's called senior lead officers. And these senior lead officers are assigned to designated areas, and they're basically the I guess the building block between the community and the department. If you have any problems, any concerns, things like that, they go to community meetings. And for some reason, it seems like a lot of departments, they don't have that, and they don't see a need for that. And, you know, other departments, you know, operate different. In Los Angeles, they've been more community police oriented than some of the small departments across the United States. And I think it's something that really works. And I think that it would benefit the community and the police department and bridge the gap between the two of them if they had an incentive to encourage officers to live in the city in which they serve.
Thank you so much. I had a question. It looks like somebody asked a question. Do you have, Brother Bo, do you have any suggestions that you think that may help this situation as a cop? Help the situation as far as reform, police reform, as a police officer? What issues or what things do you think, any points that you think could be helpful in regards to addressing, police brutality and what we're experiencing currently?
Well, I think the main thing and what it needs to happen, you know, across the country is like a town hall meeting with not only with the mayor, governor, the local police chief and sheriff, and there needs to be a conversation between the community and law enforcement, and really examine everything, and not just have it just to check the box and, okay, we're done in an hour and let's leave, and we'll get to it maybe whenever we feel like it. They need to have a real conversation and to make real change. And they need to have the transparency. They need to have the communication with the community. They need to take the advice. And in some cases, I think that federal consent decrees are warranted to come in and monitor these departments and provide, oversight to make sure that they are doing the right thing. Because I can't answer for every department, but if you're truly going to make change, you have to look at what the problems are. You can't make excuses for them. You need to be transparent. You need to work with the community to address their problems and have that open communication. You need to install civilian community advisory boards or police councils that oversee, like a police commission that oversees the police department, that is based, that are all civilian appointed officials. And that's how you have proper oversight. But I think it's constantly evolving. I wish I could say it's one thing to address racism, police brutality, social inequality in the communities. We talked about a lot of people, well, defunding the police department. Before I would even say that is, I would like to see the budgets for the individual cities and how much money is actually allocated to the inner cities in forms of education, training, adequate housing, any other type of programs, drug and alcohol abuse programs, homeless outreach. Where was that money when you signed, the past 5 years budget or past 4 years? Because it seems like with some of these mayors, it's a shell game that they're saying, oh, well, we're going to take money from one department when, specifically in, like, say, the city of Los Angeles, the most well-funded department in the entire city is the Department of Water and Power. So I have a feeling that in most of these cities, when the mayor signed off the budget, they didn't have the proper money allocated to the inner city communities to begin with. So don't let them off the hook that they planned on doing this anyway. So let's take it, let's take it from somewhere else. It should already be in the budget, because the police need to police, the fire department needs to handle fire departments and first responders, and everybody has a job, and you can't expect one to do all of them. So I think there's a lot of different things to look at to fix the problem, or at least get on the right road.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Bo. Let's see. All right. It looks like Brother Nathan says, I think we need to address the different situation of what Bishop described at the beginning, police hassling, not just the brutality, though this is clearly important too. It seems to me that the racial profiling and hassling is what causes the day-to-day oppression, keeping people down. Amen. Amen. Anyone have anything to say about that? All right. Well, this has been a wonderful session. This has been a wonderful session. Hold on one second. I think I have another person that came in. I see one says we need more people of color working on the police departments. That's from Paulette. Let's see. Silvana said they need to start defunding their excessive pension plans for lame policymakers and put the money to better use. Amen. Amen. Any other comments before we move on? I really, truly appreciate this time here. It looks like we've gone over time, but time flies by when you're dealing with topics that are important, topics that are pertinent to our community. Now, what we are trying to do is we want to have robust conversation that it's a father-son chat, but yet we are including the community, and it is imperative that we get insight from you all. It's imperative that not only we connect, we hope that you can take the discussion that we bring, that we're talking, what we bring up during this time. We hope that you go in your families and have the same discourse, so that, you know, it's families that make change. A nation is built up of families. And so that being said, I implore each and every one of you to have these discussions with your family, with your children, with your grandchildren, with your spouses, with your parents. And please, we need to just make this dialogue ring out. Let's see, I think I see something, this video. Oh, okay, very good. I do want to let you know that I will be having this video so that you will be able to see it on Facebook. It should be up probably by tomorrow. So let me go ahead and kind of go over as I close. I'm going to discuss all that. Please bear with me. I'm trying to navigate this thing. Here we go. Before I close, I have a list of books that I really believe that is imperative for us to look at. I just read a few. The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration in the Age of Color Blindness. This is written by Michelle Alexander. James Cone wrote a book called The Cross and the Lynching Tree. Also, there's a doctor by the name of Dr. Robin J. DiAngelo. She wrote a book called White Fragility. And basically she deals with the issue of white supremacy and white privilege, and how to interact with those who are not your color. And it's very good. But also Michael Dyson's book, Tears We Cannot Stop. Of course, Martin Luther King's book, Letter from Birmingham Jail. Then Bishop's book, The New Slave Masters, is really great reading for this topic. I do have another book called by Cornel West, Race Matters. So we have a whole array of books that are cited that we encourage each and every one of you to read. It will enhance your insight in this topic, and I will have this available for those who are interested. All right.
May Next, I just
go ahead.
May I just say one more thing, or maybe raise another question, which maybe can also be addressed within this forum about police brutality and the way things are being handled. And I believe it was either George or whoever brought up about the impact of the video cameras and what was the statement that you made in terms of like the snippets of people just passing, like being killed, and we just see these snapshots? How did you refer to it as earlier?
Snuff films, or looking at
snuff films.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that concerns me about these snuff films, they're great on the one hand to get the message across because this injustice is still going on and should not be going on. What unfortunately with this snuff culture, putting out these videos, is also unfortunately creating is also a greater divide. And part of the problem that we're missing in our communities is, whilst we need to stand up and take, and it needs to be positive action, because of the anger and the emotion these snuff videos are creating within our communities. I'm an Uber driver here, and I almost got my car bashed in by 6 people with baseball bats.
Wow.
In La Mesa. I have people coming in my car, and because I'm white, asking me where I stand on the issue. And I mean, they have no idea what my background is, what church I go to, who I was married to. So there's this demonization of everybody because of these videos. And then what's also lost in this is the egregious stuff that's happening in our communities, whether it's LA or Detroit or Chicago, where our Black communities are not being treated like they need to be treated, and the issues are not being addressed in terms of the overall violence. And with all this violence that's been occurring, it's almost like the violence has been lifted up as a great thing, and what's lost and not put out in the media is during all this violence, 9 people died. Out of those 9 people, 6 of them were black. So these rioters and these people who are saying we need justice are now decimating our own communities, killing the people we're supposed to be trying to save, and no one's talking about the 6 black people and anybody being held accountable for the 6 black people who are trying to be peaceable protesters or saving their friends' businesses, like the 78-year-old black police officer and the young black lady who got killed in her community. And so because we're trying to stand up for this one area here, which is extraordinarily important and egregious and needs to be handled, where we've got people feeding the fire to create such anger and angst that everyone's coming against each other. And now we're actually killing our own people, but no one's addressing that. So I think we need to address both sides of it. And how can we come together as a community to have the right systems in place with our police enforcement, and how we deal with each other as a community to not attack each other and make each other the problem while we're addressing the real demonic issues here that I believe are actually, it's kind of blowing up in our face. We're trying to address one issue, but we're neglecting all the other serious issues that are creating mayhem and murder and killing our black community regardless, because somebody dared stand up to protect their property during the violence, and it was a black person that died. So we've got to have these conversations on both sides, and how we can address it so that we're not attacking those who are trying to be part of the solution as well.
Bishop,
that was just an observation I had.
Bishop, did you want to make any closing remarks in regards to that, or anything that you'd like to say?
It's not an easy road that we must travel.
Not at all.
Amen.
The process will be time-consuming and painful, but we've got to make the trip. We can't deny that we are here to be agents for justice and proclaimers of truth, and we must be enlisted in the army for the pursuit of peace. But it's going to be painful, and there's a lot of hurt and dying that will be involved. But we've got to face the reality that it's up to us if it's going to be changed. And we must be prepared to suffer some certain consequences. But God is on the side of the righteous, and it is important for us to know that truth crushed to the earth will rise again, and no lie can live forever. That gives us courage to take a stand for righteousness, justice, and truth.
I want to thank you, Bishop. I want to thank each and every one that joined with us on today. Only way we can become a better community is if each and every one participates through dialogue, through interaction. Social change takes place through coming together, and we are a community. And so, that being said, I do want to let you know our next meeting is set for July 2nd, and it's going to be the same time frame, July 2nd, and we're going to continue to deal with these topics. And we appreciate you coming on today, and I hope that you come back in July. Also, this recording will be for you to take a look at on Facebook, most likely within the next, by tomorrow, hopefully by tomorrow. But keep an eye out. You will be able to see it on Facebook or YouTube. So we'll let you have it. Amen.
Brother Gordon?
Yes, sir.
We'll have time for a 30-second statement from Reverend Carolyn Byers, who's a graduate of Howard University School of Theology. She's been listening with us last week and again this week. Do we have time for just a brief word from her?
Why, sure. Hold on one second. Reverend Byers, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but I'm in process of writing a paper. And Bishop has a lot of our discussions, we've been having discussions on race since before I was born. It's been going on for, I guess, 400 years. But many of the things that we're talking about even today, they are symptoms of a much deeper problem. And of course, Bishop pointed it out. This thing called racism or hate, really, that's what it is. That's what the Word of God would call it, hate. Racism, it's a word they made up. There is no such thing as racism. God created mankind in his image. But what most of us don't realize is that if you look at, I came across an article several years ago, and it was written by Benjamin Franklin, as we all know, is one of our founding fathers, and in which he said specifically that his desire was for America to be a nation exclusively for white Europeans, period. He said, in his words, said, we don't want the blacks, or what he called tawny. We have to understand that this nation was not meant for anyone. The founding fathers did not set this nation up for anyone to be included. It's other than for the promotion of the wealth of Europeans who came and took this nation from another nation through terrorism. That's the beginning of this nation. I don't want to say too much because I've just been working with this and I've developed a paper around that. But we got to face the truth. The truth will set us free. And if God be for us, and he is, we will overcome. But the only way we have him, God has given us, our relationship with Jesus. Christians in this community have the hope. We have the light. We can make the difference. There's just no, this is not what we're experiencing is racism and all this madness. One lady mentioned, I think it was Savannah, about it's spiritual warfare. Yeah, we know that. But many of the people that are engaged in the warfare don't realize that they are on Satan's team. I've said enough.
Thank you, Reverend Byers. We definitely appreciate that. It was just wonderful words that you shared with us.
Wonderful insight.
Amen. All right, so our next meeting is, as I said, July 2nd, same times, 2 p.m. West Coast, 5 p.m. East Coast. Again, tonight's meeting will be posted on Facebook Watch Party for us to look at. Also, you'll be able to look at it. I'll put it on my YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel called the Shall You Do channel. TheShaludo channel, and you will be able to access it from that YouTube site. Before we have a closing prayer by Bishop McKinney, I would like to pause for a moment of silence. A moment of silence for George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, and all those that have lost their lives due to police brutality, and also the victims of the COVID-19. We're still in the middle of a pandemic as well. So I'm going to ask that before Bishop prays, we will pause in a moment of silence for the victims.
We thank you, O God, for saving us, for healing us, for forgiving us of all of our sins. May the conversation in which we've engaged today bring some degree of comfort and clarity to the minds of those who listened. Bless us and use us in your service. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is done in heaven. It is our prayer. Blessings upon us now. Amen.
Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you in July. We're going to do this. It's going to be a monthly activity. So I pray that you keep us in prayer as we deal and tackle and grapple with these topics, these tough topics that we're dealing with during this time, in this juncture that we're faced with. But I'm encouraged that God is still on the throne and we're victorious. We are overcomers. So continue to pray for the ministries that are represented here in this room. We definitely will be praying for your family. God bless you. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Have a wonderful evening.